Hello and welcome to Africa Today. I am Mike Okwache. In recent years, Somalia's Al-Shabaab militia has banned smoking, playing soccer, watching movies, wearing bras, and anything it deemed Western in the country. This time, Al-Qaeda-linked group is set out to ban live online. And in a statement published on the internet, Al-Shabaab said the use of the internet in areas under its control is highly prohibited. Confusing, you may say. Elsewhere in the heart of Africa, interim leader Alexandra Ferdinand Nguyendet of the Central African Republic is hopeful that days of confusion and crisis are over in that country. As we take a look at the developments in Somalia and Central African Republic, what are your thoughts on the level of security on the continent? Share your thoughts with us on Twitter at TVC Africa Today, or send an email to africatoday@tvcnews.tv. We'll take this report on Al-Shabaab militants in Somalia and Africa Today. We'll be right back. Glad to have you join us.
It is beginning to look like Islamist militants in East Africa are starting off where they left off last year. Targeted bombings. The attack on the Jazeera Hotel in Mogadishu and grenade attack in Kenya's Diani city south of Mombasa had all the signs of terror written on it. Al-Shabaab is claiming responsibility for the attack in Mogadishu. The group's spokesperson, Ali Mahmoud Raj, called it a planned target on intelligence officials who were meeting at the hotel. More than a dozen people died there. But more worrisome for Somalis is the Jazeera Hotel, one of the country's most secure places in the coastal capital, was affected. And this attack underscores worries in neighboring countries that Somalia might be slipping back into anarchy, which will be a total loss of recent military gains. Across the border, authorities in Kenya cannot afford to take chances. Al-Shabaab has a history in Kenya, though not a good one. As the grenade attack shows, Al-Shabaab is keen on continuing its campaign of terror.
When this happened, it didn't land where there were very many people. Approximately there were about 200 persons in this club. So when it happened, the grenade landed at the pool tables where there were very few people. So far we have 10 casualties that are undergoing treatment at Musambweni District Hospital.
I think they're afraid to be exposed because mobile technology with the high-speed internet will allow citizens to transmit data into the rest of the world through social media or through the internet and whatnot. Probably the most important one is that they're afraid that this technology will be used to track some of their top fighters as the operations of drones permeates in the area that Al-Shabaab controls in South and Central Somalia.
We cannot do without internet. It is very convenient and we have become used to it, and it is what keeps us busy. We talk to our friends and we converse with the world.
The group continues to grow stronger in might. Yet authorities are hoping that one day a total end will come to the reign of the group.
Somalia, a country of about 10 million people, has been faced with war and famine for more than 2 decades. Now, according to Internet World Stats, the country has more than 126,000 internet users. But that may change soon enough if the threats from Al-Shabaab are anything to go by. Now, to discuss the Al-Shabaab and its sudden allergy to telecom operations and internet use on Africa Today, we have Larry Suraj, a security expert on the show today. It's good to have you, Larry.
Yeah, my pleasure.
And let me say Happy New Year.
Same to you. Good to have you around again.
You're welcome. And later on the program, we'll be linking up on film with Marcus Hone, a researcher with Max Planck Institute for Social Anthropology, Integration and Conflict. He'll be joining us from Germany. And also joining us on the show is Chris Wangombe, an independent journalist based in Kenya. And that will be on the second segment. Well, let's start it this way. Why the sudden allergy? Let me use the word allergy for internet services and mobile services in Somalia by Al-Shabaab.
Obviously, that tells you how much of failure on some part of security network across the continent, and Nigeria, for instance, as a typical example. Al-Shabaab has come to the realization that with the use of both internet and telephone, it becomes very easy for them to be tracked by security surveillance within and outside Somalia. And obviously, if you look back at how the Al-Qaeda kingpin, was his name, was tracked down. Osama bin Laden was tracked down in Pakistan. It tells you how the use of telephone could actually be effective in terms of intelligence gathering and security surveillance. It's only in Nigeria that you have the contrary to that. Rather than allowing the Boko Haram guys to continue using the telephone and then using the security network and intelligence gathering to track them through telephone, and the security expert, the security personnel would rather stop the use of phone. And in essence, what it tells you is evidence is destroyed. You know, the means of even tracking the Boko Haram guys is already compromised. But these are people who knows the implication of the use of internet and also of telephone, not by just the citizens alone, but equally by their own network.
All right, but with this, do you think it's a desperate move or a desperate indication that they are losing ground, especially Al-Shabaab?
Or actually, one of the things that you expect them to do is to come up with this kind of several measures at many times to assert their authority, their influence, and then also to use a kind of force to intimidate not only the people, but also the business enterprise for them to start playing games with them. And it's very easy. You know, the internet service providers are going to lose enormously. But one of the things that you find as a backlash to some of those decisions by terror groups is the fact that rather than the users decreasing, would rather increase, because that raises a suspicion of the people. And then people have the natural tendency for defiance, and then you want to find a means of getting it. And you wouldn't be surprised that in the next couple of months, the number of users will actually go on the increase rather than in the decrease.
But if they are carrying out this kind of threat, but they themselves, they use this internet services as well.
Yeah, it's about restricting the number of users.
Because this message they brought out now is to one of the services of the medium.
It's the thing. So naturally, they would continue using it. They want to actually reduce their vulnerability to actually exposing their network and then also their operations in terms of being able to track them, in terms of being able to also check them in their accesses, and also to continue asserting their authorities and power, and also inflicting forces and fear in the people of Somalia, and then also sending some funny signals to the international communities that they're trying to also make things a bit difficult and then threaten certain businesses' interests that they know are operating currently in Somalia.
Okay. Now, joining us from Germany is Markus Hohn, a research fellow with Max Planck Institute. Markus, it's good to have you join us on Africa Today. Now, what do you think is responsible for terror groups like Al-Shabaab calling for the ban of internet use and mobile phones in Somalia?
I think this is an expression of a quite ambiguous position regarding the internet and mobile phone. On the one hand, it's probably a rejection on ideological grounds of this technology, which is, of course, part of the contemporary globalization, which is from Islamist perspective very often perceived as a westernization, you know, the spread of US, American, and European music, ideological, political ideas, secularism, and so on and so forth. So I think on the one hand, that's a rejection of this influence, but only on one level. I think on a more concrete level, it's a show of force in Somalia. This ban, for which Al-Shabaab called, brings the new government in Mogadishu into trouble. It brings it into quite serious trouble because information technology is one of the really important technologies in Somalia for many people, also abroad, calling relatives abroad. And it's, of course, also a very thriving business inside Somalia. Information technology really works in Somalia. And the third point is more practical, and I think also the speaker before me talked about it, that, of course, information technology, particularly mobile phones, are used in counterterrorism in order to track terrorists down and strike them with a rocket which is sent by a drone. So I think these three things come together and are the main reason why Al-Shabaab at this point called for this ban.
All right, let me ask you this. How important is internet and mobile access in terrorism and counterterrorism?
Yeah, I think it's very important. I mean, as I just mentioned, I mean, it is a key technology for locating the targets in the drone war of the United States of America. And the drone war, as you may know, has its main theaters in Somalia and in Mali. And of course, if you have somebody's Facebook profile, if you have somebody's mobile phone number, you basically can, the security agencies in North America and Europe can establish this person's whereabouts. If this person is being called from some clandestine followers abroad in Germany, from some supporters in Europe somewhere, this is basically a direct lead to the person in Somalia, in Mali. And this has been the death sentence for a couple of terrorists in Pakistan, but also in Somalia in the recent months and years. So I think it's extremely important in the war against terrorism. In terrorism, of course, information technology is also very important. I mean, Al-Shabaab has been very effective in using the internet as a platform for spreading its ideology, recruiting new followers, engaging in a kind of e-jihad, electronic jihad with AMISOM. As you know, they directly reacted to statements by the AMISOM speaker on their own websites and in their own tweets.
All right, now, with this threat from Al-Shabaab, do you think the Somali government has the capacity to guarantee the safety of service providers, internet service providers and mobile phones?
I think they may have the capacity to safeguard the key centers of these companies in the main cities which are under their control, which is essentially Mogadishu and probably Kismayo and Baidoa. But I think we have seen in the last few weeks only that Al-Shabaab is able to strike in the Somali capital. The Jazeera hotel bombing recently in early January is an example. It's able to strike very high-profile targets in the capital city. So I think we can expect that Al-Shabaab is working on a plan to strike these mobile phone or internet providers, and they can conduct these strikes, and the Somali government has very limited capacities. They will try to safeguard these places, and they have, of course, personnel on the ground, and AMISOM is also there with a strong troop and well-trained troop. However, Al-Shabaab managed so far to strike always some high-profile targets, and I guess they can do that again now. I mean, one way of safeguarding these companies, maybe sometimes more effective than the official police forces, are neighborhood watches. You know, in Mogadishu and other parts of Somalia, the neighborhood is extremely well controlled. It's a space of very narrow social control. And if a foreigner or if a foreign person who doesn't belong to this neighborhood enters a neighborhood, usually the first people to recognize it is just the neighbors. So if the mobile phone companies and the internet providers would cooperate with both the government and these neighborhood watches, they may have a better chance to safeguard the property.
All right. Thank you very much, Max, for your time on the program today. Thank you. Right, with this threat now, what strategy do you think the government can take to contain this kind of threats from Al-Shabaab?
I think the first thing is how to see the possibility of first and foremost protecting and safeguarding the facilities of the service providers, and then that would at least to a very large extent guarantee and protect the businesses and interests of the service provider. And then also the second thing is to see to the fact that the social space, the cyberspace, is still open to people for their access, and then it is not as much as possible restricted from their usage. And the other thing is for the government also to critically and strategically engage the social media in using it to spread positive messages, you know, that can build the confidence of the people, that can start mobilizing the people to understand the motive behind the actions of the Al-Shabaab, and then also start a process of, as much as possible, bring international community to also provide as much support as they can in terms of ensuring that access and supply of both service for the telecom industry in terms of the mobile phone and internet is still constantly available to the people.
Okay. Well, now, previous efforts by Al-Shabaab to ban Somalis from enjoying products of modern life, such as music and money transfer services, failed. And in 2010, the militia staged bombings in the Ugandan capital, Kampala. They killed scores of people watching a World Cup football game and have now issued a 15-day ultimatum to telecoms operators in its region. Well, we'll go on a quick break, and when we return, we'll be looking at developments in the Central African Republic. Still with us. Right, thank you very much for staying with us on Africa Today. The interim leader in the Central African Republic, Alexandria Ferdinand Ngwendet, says the era of anarchy in the country is over. This bold declaration came days after Michel Jotodia, who seized power in a coup last year, was forced to step down following months of unrest. Now, let's go to the Central African Republic. Now, let me ask you this. After several months of not being able to contain the unrest of the crisis in the Central African Republic, one man just comes up and in less than a week, he's saying the era of all of that is over. Where is all this confidence coming from?
No, I mean, that is one of the things that you don't want to start hearing for people who want to assume situations in such a critical situation as now. I mean, you want to show a roadmap for leading to such an outlandish statement, and then you want to also ensure that people are part of the process that you're talking about. I mean, it is not just a one-man thing, and things have actually degenerated beyond the level where rhetorics will just do it. And it's going to be about building blocks. Nobody is, as at this time, inconsequential. You know, everybody matters, irrespective of the views that are held. And then you want to understand this is a situation where the politics and crisis has been allowed to assume a religious dimension. One of the most volatile source of crisis in any situation or any community, in any gathering, and a country for that instance, is where religious comes to play in people's differences. And for now, I mean, you know the role that is playing in CAR, and for the statement from Alexander, I think it's not just what should be made for now. It shouldn't just be that, I don't know, building a castle in the air. Yeah.
But do you think the government has the capacity to quell the crisis in the next few weeks, as the case may be?
No, in a matter of weeks, it's not possible. I mean, things that have degenerated over years cannot just be reversed in a matter of weeks. It takes time. But what can be done is to build such a long strategic plan on how you want to rebuild that country and how you want to reconcile all the differences.
The people.
And then make sure that tactical formations are also designed to attain that strategic plan. Okay. And then you walk through it. You walk towards it. You don't show that you're going to do it. It's to start telling the people, this is the time when the CAR people will have to do it themselves. You as a leader, all you want to do is to facilitate a process. Okay. You want to support them through it. You want to commit yourself to it. You can go to the extent of saying you want to sacrifice for it. And sacrificial involvement at this point is to show that you want to put every benefit that are possibly accruing to you to whatever you want to do in that process. And then you allow people to take ownership of the process, where they can see that if it fails, then everybody fails. Then you are not going to be the one to be accused of failing, but everybody in the country can see that they have collectively failed. Okay. And that is what is actually needed at this point.
Okay. All right, we have Chris Wangombe from Kenya joining us on the show. Chris, it's good to have you on Africa Today. Now, some believe the days of anarchy are really over in the Central African Republic. But where does this leave the rebels on one hand and French troops on the other hand?
Thank you very much for having me in your show. Well, one of the things we are seeing playing out in the Central African Republic, as my colleague has said, is a religious and an ethnic conflict on one side, and on the other issue is long-standing tensions that have held this country, that have been felt through this country for many years. And of course, what is happening right now is that many of them are coming to the surface right now, and they're appearing as though they are religious and ethnic at the same time.
All right, I asked this question earlier on in the studio, but let me ask you as well. Where do you think Ngwendet's confidence is coming from?
Come again, please.
No, I said, let me ask you this question too. Now, the interim president has said that the days of the era of anarchy is over. But where is all this confidence he's putting in the people? Where is it coming from?
Well, one of the things, of course, that's happening in most parts of Africa is that there's a resurgence. And people are almost tired of this age-old conflict, this age-old narrative of countries having coups day after day. Just the other day, we saw a coup take place in South Sudan, and now in 2012, we saw one taking place in Central African Republic, and it's drawn out pretty much for the whole of 2013. And basically what we are seeing is a push by most of the African nations wanting to have a situation where we can come back together on the negotiating table, where we can sit and talk about maybe power sharing. If that is what needs to be done, let the bloodletting cease, and let us have a situation where we are able to resolve conflict as easily and as quickly as possible.
All right, with statements and maybe, let's say, body language of Ngwendet, the interim leader, do you think he has the capacity to do a better job than what Michel Djotodia was trying to do?
Well, I think Ngwendet has what it takes. I believe looking at how he's carried himself throughout the whole process, he's an individual who has allowed the advantage of having the proximity to a lot of the situations that's been playing across the Central African Republic. And so he's been at the center of everything. And his confidence comes across as he's speaking to the cameras, throughout the negotiations. And it is hoped, it is one of the things that is hoped that he will be able to carry this through and deliver it to a level where the residents of Central African Republic and, of course, the rest of Africa who are watching will be able to at least breathe, at least for some moment, where the guns may run silent for a while.
All right, thank you very much, Chris, for your time on Africa Today. Now, what's the place of dialogue in all of this and bringing unity back to the Central African Republic?
Oh, it's the #1 position there. It's the first thing that needs to be embraced. Both those
but we didn't see Michel Djotodia do that much. And now with the statements like the era of anarchy are all over, it doesn't look like there's going to be a dialogue bringing everyone on the table.
No, that is the unfortunate thing, and that's why I actually started from there. The first thing is the language would actually speak a lot in terms of how much would be the disposition of the factors or the sides that are involved in the conflict. It is also very critical that, and I hope in whether it would be able to learn from the failure of Djotodia. I mean, in the absence of that, is going to be a major challenge. And also there will be a need for sensitivity in terms of the sensibilities of the others. I mean, it's not going to be enough at the level of degeneracy in that country that people would assume or take genuine intention for what they had. There's every likelihood for ethnic and religious sentiments to be attached to every statement that is made by the leadership. So when you just make a statement like, here out, anarchy is over, it's more or less you're saying, okay, we're going to flush out a certain set of people. And the next thing they want to do is to put up their guard and then also come forward with a kind of attack or another strategy at which they won't want to be prepared for reconciliation and dialogue. But I think a better statement of an era of dialogue is here would make a whole lot of meaning better than saying an era of anarchy is over. I mean, you use the positive terms in terms of trying to bring people together than bringing up or playing up the negative sides that have brought the Central African Republic to where it is today.
All right, fine. Let me, from your perspective as a security person, what do you see? What do you see in the Central African Republic, maybe in the next 1 year or something? What's your projection for the country?
It's going to be determined by several factors, and that is going to be the international community, and that is going to be the leadership, and then that is going to be the people and themselves. The international community would have to realize that there's a very critical role to be played in this instance. And that goes to the issue of creating jobs for those who, I mean, quite a number of them are jobless and then turned to refugees. We're talking about millions of them. And then there's also going to be about social security and social infrastructure in the system. And on the part of the leadership, it is going to be about sacrifice now and the commitment to rebuilding that country. It is not about taking vengeance on any situation. It's about bringing people back on board to actually move the country forward.
All right. Thank you very much, Larry Suraj, for coming on the program.
Always my pleasure.
All right. And we also thank Marcus for joining us from Germany and Chris Wangombe from Kenya. Now, amidst reports of relative calm in parts of the Central African Republic, many wait to see how the Transitional Council will steer the country to safety after months of sectarian violence. And while the government in Somalia has dismissed the recent threats by Al-Shabaab militia, it is believed that the group's proposed internet ban could hurt its ability to address its followers and spread propaganda. That's our show for today, featuring a tale of two cities in Somalia and the Central African Republic. Until we come your way again, I am Mike Okwoche. And remember, this is Africa. Bye for now.